Good morning, this is Richard back at you. We got Randy's 2001 Ford in the house this morning. It's got a 40100 in it. Come in noisy, barely moving. We actually had to push it in because it was just so noisy and we didn't want to tear anything else up. But also, my wife come in this morning and she said, Richard, I want you to work smarter, not harder. I said, really? She handed me this beautiful bag. And guess what it had in it, guys? A brand new 1/2-inch Milwaukee. Beautiful, beautiful. I don't have to borrow Trent's no more. It's got these beautiful protector I'm going to put on it. And look here, guys. The newest version. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Trent's got a brand new protector for it. Yeah, Trent, you are jealous, ain't you?
I am jealous.
I don't have to yell at Trent anymore and say, hey Trent, let me borrow your tools. So, but this will be the first time it's never had a socket on it yet. So we're going to knock this thing out really quick. Randy, we appreciate you bringing your vehicle to us and let us get to do it. So let's get started on it. So like I said, this thing was barely moving, whining like crazy. We haven't took the pan off yet, so we're all going to get to see what type of surprises we have in the pan. So I'm kind of curious. We'll get this little odd bolt out here. You can't really get a socket on it or anything because it's got this little nub on it and there ain't no distance here, so you always have to wrench it out. So now this is my first experiment or using this gun here, so it's going to be a little different. So I got it on 3, so that's basically full power, which I'd rather have it on it right now. Really smooth. Pretty quiet too.
No struggle, I mean.
Yeah, pretty quiet too. I'm going to take this little sensor out here first, that way I don't break my rear sensor. And then I'm going to take my front one out really quick too. Don't want to get too far ahead of myself just because I want to use this beautiful tool here, guys. It's like, get these out so we don't break anything. We don't have any metal on it here, so that's good. See if we have any metal on the rear one. Now these will interchange. They'll go front to rear. There's no difference in the two. Get our transfer case vent line off here. They always have these tube hose connectors right here that keep the hose mounted to the case, and we always have to replace it because they just break. So we'll run new lines and stuff like that back there too because they're just also brittle. But they got these clamps here that'll clamp to the ledge here and then hold the hose at the same time. You can see this little hole. Actually like that.
Pretty cool design.
But every time you got to replace those hoses, they're always just so brittle. You want to be careful with this because this is cast iron. It physically is pretty heavy. Got them all. Now we do have our parking assembly in here. Right through here, you can see how this works even. I'll put it in park. See how that locked in? I'll take it out of park, put it back in park, and then as your vehicle rolls, bang, locks it in park. Doesn't let it turn. Sometimes you can get these out without taking this bracket loose. We'll try it for just a second. I'm not going to mess with it. Sounds good, huh? That thing works good. Really nice tool there, my wife. I really appreciate that for sure. Now I like this one here too for my valve bodies and stuff over here in my build area. It works really good. Yep. I like the sensitivity button on it to where it doesn't tighten down. It's too tight so I could just barely tap my pan gaskets and stuff like that before I come back and speed handle everything up. So we got our neutral safety switch here. You always want to be careful. You don't want to damage it getting it off. Sometimes you do. It's just part of the scene. You gotta just buy another one. But a lot of rust in here. Now let me show you something here, guys. If you can see this right here, I'm gonna lay this down. I'm gonna point at this. Do you see that little line right there and that little line right there? Mm-hmm. What you do is you put the transmission in neutral, this shifter in neutral, and then when you bolt this back on, you line them notches up and then you tighten it down. You notice this is elongated so you can turn it.
Correct.
You line that up right there, tighten it down, now this is set. So pretty easy way to do that. If you've never done one before, if you ever have a code for it, doesn't want to start anymore. Now we're going to get over here to our cooler bypass tube. Make sure that doesn't tip. I believe it's this one, or is it my bigger one? Okay. Now, what we do here, this thing here, if we have any type of restriction in the cooler, if the oil gets too cold up front, if you go to the mountains and it's minus 19 degrees or something like that, it won't want to push the fluid through the cooler. So this tube is designed to bypass, and we replace every one of them in our overhaul kits here. This is a new one here, goes in here. It has a check ball and a spring here that can get stuck, and if this ever gets stuck and quits bypassing, your cooler gets restricted, and now we have a transmission failure, and it's going to be gear train failure. It's not going to be clutch failure because it's going to melt the tranny to the ground. So this is a must on every one you do. They'll come with new bolts, gaskets, you know, they'll come with everything. Now some of them might not come with these, but every one I buy comes with it because there's a spring and a check ball in here. This is a one-way check valve. Can you see that down in there, Trent, that ball and spring? Mm-hmm. So, now also, there's another one in here. So that's why we replace these, because that's a very critical area where a failure can occur, and it'll be the worst type of failure because it'll restrict the cooler where it actually melts the gear train to the ground. So now he does pull a lot of heavy weight. We're going to be putting a billet converter in here. This is a factory triple disc here. It's got the little dimples in it all the way around like this, plus it's in a diesel. It's got 6 lugs. Now the one we got coming in here won't have these lugs no more. It'll be a different backing, still be a triple disc, and there's just no ballooning of the converter under heavy loads and stuff like this gentleman's going to be pulling. So fluid looks pretty red, so I'm really curious to see what we find here. This is a heavy transmission. And we'll take it apart right there like that first. I hear they make a glove for this one too. I'm going to have to get. I don't want to get that one too dirty before I get my new glove on there. So I want to take care of my equipment, especially when it's new.
Them 12 haven't missed a lick though, huh?
No sir. This little jewel right here is a working machine. And we have 0 metal in the pan, just a lot of metal on the magnet. Now this is, you can tell here, this looks like fresh grindings. Like we possibly have a planetary failure, converter starting to fail, something like that. And these filters right here, what they do is they suck right off the top of that magnet. Worst place you can put a filter suction. Let's try and pour this out a little bit. You can just see all the metal in that filter. Look at that, guys. So this happened really quick. I'm going to say probably converter failure. Just filled the filter full of metal. I mean, it's just full of glitter. If you pour it out, you can just, I mean, it's everywhere. But if you notice, this filter sits right here beside that magnet. So now what it does is it just grabs all that metal instantly and just picks that filter up into the filter. But this is all fresh stuff. This happened like yesterday. This thing happened so quick and plugged the filter up that hopefully it didn't do a whole lot of damage to it. I mean, this gentleman could have been on his game, and right when it happened, he turned it off. And that's probably what it did look like to me. I mean, the guys... okay.
But it's not going to come in.
Right. Yes. So Miss Teresa just took over the camera from Trent. Trent had to go do some errands really quick. Thank you, Teresa. Now we got a bunch of 10 millimeter nuts here. Go on these studs. I like this because these studs gives everything an alignment when you put it all down in here. You don't have to have special alignment tools or anything like that. It pretty much aligns it all for you. Now I do have alignment pins actually for some of the other valve bodies that we have to align with pins. Now this is our accumulator body here. This is the most critical part of this tranny. One of the most critical parts. When we go back and build our units, this thing here gets a lot of attention. This physically gives you shift feel. We can shorten our shift accumulator strokes and shorten our shifts and stuff like that. And you see there's a lot of material in here, just a lot of blackness coating. Grut in here. Like I say, this is a two-stage accumulator system. In other words, it has to move two valves to soften the shift, and before some of them just have one accumulator. So this is a two-stage type system here. Now this is your engagement control valve body. What we do on this one here, we do leave a spring out here on this one here, and it helps reverse engagement a ton. So we leave this spring out, lets the valve float back and forth all by itself. So that's a good upgrade right there, because these things have reverse delay issues, and when we build this tranny back, that's really what we go in here to correct one of those issues. So now if you look here, this is your check balls right here. You have a big one here, you have a big one here, and you have two small ones right here. Now if you notice you have another trough right here, you could put a check ball there accidentally. If you did, the tranny's not going to work. Now if you come over and look at this plate, where this trough is, it has two holes. Where this trough is, it only has one hole. That's why you do not put a ball in here. Now you notice they did oblong it. I guess they did that maybe so if somebody did put a ball in here, it won't seal up totally. But if you put a ball in there, you're going to create issues. So, and the ball is a lot smaller than your this ball right here. There's two balls in here. You see the size difference. Now these are like a Teflon style ball. They're really hard. I can't remember what they call that rubber, Vicon or Vicon something. But it don't beat the plate up like metal balls do. Now these small ones, this black one here I'm not used to. You know, normally they're the same color as those, so I don't know where that ball come from, or it's just dissipated so much it's beat the color off of it or something. Now this is your main valve body area here. This is your shift valves and stuff like that. That ball in there. You can see here, anytime you clean this up with air or anything, this little plate right here is real easy to blow out. and not know you did it. So you're blowing air through here, this thing will pop right out. We don't really see very many issues here. Very seldom do we ever have to replace this valve body piece here. I have had issues where I've had to, but very seldom. You don't see a lot of wear in this area. Looking for my squeegee. Thank you guys, for sure. Sure, grab the right one. Now here's your solenoid pack. All the solenoids are built into one unit. Now we have a PWM style solenoid pack. We have a non-PWM style solenoid pack. I talked about this in a earlier video about somebody mixing stuff up and burning the torque converter up and stuff. You don't want to mix this stuff up unless you definitely know what you're doing. You don't want to break this because this has to go back as a core to be rebuilt. You can't get them new anymore if you buy them off the internet or anything like that. I wouldn't recommend it buying off the internet, but we buy them from a guy that I've been using 40 years or so, and we ship these back as cores. I have a new one sitting over there in the box. You can see, oops, excuse me, you can see right here. There's a brand new one here in the box that we'll be putting in it with all the Transgo kit, sprags, clutches, filters, all that type of stuff. So all the bonded pistons. There's a lot of stuff to these trannies here. Very unique tranny. Actually, we had our Emerald College instructor come out yesterday evening and talk to me for a while. Wanted me to come out and talk a little bit. Wanted me to come out and pick up a bunch of transmission cores that they're not going to be using in class anymore. So we'd told him we'd come out and buy them all from him and donate the money to the college and stuff. So we're going to be doing that. So excited to go out there. Kind of give me heebie-jeebies when they asked me to come out there. So it's something I've always wanted to do. Like I said, I had a chance back in my early days and turned it down. So, but there is some modifications you do to this plate here. There'll be some holes we drill, like this one here. We drilled this one here too. The shift kit will tell you about what size to drill. Actually, it gives you a drill bit in the kit. So always do the modifications in the kit. Don't go oversized. Don't go grab you a bigger drill and think just because you can drill the hole bigger it's going to help. That's not what this is about. So, and Teresa, I want to thank you for them beautiful Milwaukee tools there. I'm going to work smarter, not harder. Thank you. Now, I did pull something out of here, guys. I didn't show you. There is a pressure release spring right here, and there's a check ball that sets on top of here. Now, the shift kit will come with a new one. It looks like a little bullet that'll set down in there. That way it can't bounce around. It seals instantly every time, where the check ball has to bounce around a little bit before it finally seats a little bit, where that one there just seats every time because it's already guided into the hole. So it is in the shift kit over there. Now, if you notice here, this thing's got tons of check balls in it. Now, we have a check ball book that tells us every check ball location every tranny made. I've got 3 of them, actually, that are really nice. So, we have a check ball here, 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 here. If you notice, we have a trough here. No check ball, guys. If you put a check ball in that hole, you're in trouble. So, you really want to be careful. Now, if you notice this plate right here, we go back to this dual hole stuff again. If you notice this plate has 2 holes. If you flip it over with the right gasket on it, it even shows you it has 2 holes that a check ball goes there. See? But if you come over here and look for this trough here, it doesn't, it's not there. See, not even there for it. So it does not put a check ball there. If you do, you're in trouble because you're going to be plugging a hole up. Trying to figure out exactly where that's at. Let's see, through the light shining out so hard, I can barely see, it's kind of reflection.
Kinda.
But anyway, guys, no check ball here. Always look to, when you take your kit, you open it up, you're going to have four gaskets. If you notice here, 1, 2, 3 holes. 1, 2, 3. The other gaskets will only have these two. It will not have these. If you put the gasket on there and you cover that hole, you're in trouble. And let me tell you another reason where I messed up one time, guys. And I'm not shy to show one of my mistakes because it can happen to anybody. These bolts right here are Loctited in. These are a hollow bolt. They torque down to about 9 inch-pounds, 10 inch-pounds, hardly nothing at all, because underneath these bolts right here, the case is hollow. So if you tighten them down, it will contour this like here. You know, it'll bevel it like that. Well, this gasket right here is thicker than this gasket right here to compromise for that bow if you over tighten this right here. So what I was doing too was, this bolts come with Loctite on them to start with. And what I started doing is I double Loctite, and I put a little bit of extra red Loctite on there just to make sure that these bolts never come loose, because we get them in here where they come loose, and that's what burned the tranny up. So they torque at such a light torquage that they can come loose real easy. So, but what happened was, the way this plate sets on here, if you look here, see that hole right there? Well, when I flipped the tranny over and got it built, a small dripping of Loctite fell onto that hole right here on this side and hardened overnight. When we put the transmission in, I don't remember exactly what it did, it's been too long ago, but the tranny did not work. So that tells you there, if you put the wrong gasket on it and you cover that hole, you're in trouble. But I was just telling you that the simple mistake that I made was that piece of Loctite dripping down on that hole and plugging it up. So if you put the wrong gasket, you're going to run into the same type of problem. So let me get all these check bolts out of here really quick. Now you can see now all the check bolts on this side of the tranny are the same, except the relief valve right here check ball. It's a metal check ball. But the shift kit does come with another ball. So now we'll get these hollow center support bolts out. Now one of these is your lube circuit, your third gear circuit, your forward clutch circuit, your overdrive circuit. There's a lot of circuitry right in this area right here. See that bolt? It's got Loctite on it, but man, I mean, you could almost take that out with your fingers. That's how much they try to loosen up. The support walks in the case and stuff like that. I'll show you a little bit of wear in the case, and then you can see the Loctite that they put on there. Now you can use these bolts over again, put your own Loctite on there, but there are new ones in the kit. And I believe the shift kit, no, it doesn't come with different bolts. Now the 480E shift kit does come with different bolts. So ooh, we got a tight one there. I'm telling you. Like I said, I don't know if this tranny's been built before yet. It hasn't showed any signs of anything. Still got the gray factory seal. That was the worst design ever made. That had bad reactions to the fluid and stuff like that, swelled up and all kinds of stuff. So now we do have our lockup ring here. Now this is a Teflon ring. It's not a rubber ring like GM uses. Scarf cut, hardened ring. So hopefully I can get this out of here. Now let me show you something here too, guys. Everybody wants to grab a screwdriver and pry the pump out. If you pry right here and you break this land off, which a lot of people want to get in here and do that, you just rent the case. So, and that is non-repairable, believe me. I've never done it. I learned it right off the bat from somebody else. So, let me see if I can find a different hammer. This just seems a little tighter than... Here it comes. I like doing it this way. You can do a slide hammer, but I like to do it this way. Just simple. See how that just take your time. Don't just beat on it really hard. Use something like this to do it with. That way you're not beating on it with a hammer. And we have our input shaft. Our pump.
I didn't know if I was going to have to do that.
Huh?
So I didn't know if I was going to have to do that for you.
Now Ford has redesigned this pump multiple times, so I'm hoping it's got a good diesel pump in it that we don't have to replace. Yeah, like I said, you can see the darkening of it. I'll have to get in here and check this a little bit better with my gloves off and clean it up. We find a lot of stuff, guys, after the fact once we start cleaning. Now this just has the worst gray seal that Ford ever made. It does have a wide bushing. Now this is a diesel pump. It's got the biggest pump gears. It's got the biggest feed holes, which are these here. Mainly look at here. Just that almost looks like it had water in it one time a little bit, just staining real bad. So that looks pretty good. We got a set of brand new pump gears over here in the box, ready to go too. To see, let's just make sure that they're the right ones, because a lot of times when I order this parts and stuff, you just never know what you're going to get nowadays until you open the box.
Right part number, but wrong part.
Yep, we see that a lot. Really nice. What you do is, I come in here and do this. Put that like that, make sure you can turn. About 3,000, 4,000 is clearance, about all you want through here. But you can do it on both sides. You always want to check it, because just because you got brand new gears don't mean that somebody didn't mess up at the manufacturer. So always take a mic and mic this gear, just to verify what you got going on. Get that down in there so I can put it back in the box. Excuse me. Missed anything here. So you have a thrush washer right here. Turn this over. Don't want to get too big a hurry and not show you guys everything, and I could do that real easy. Now we have our boost valve and stuff over here. Now your shift kit will come with all the new boost valve and everything right here. Always put that in. Makes it work really nice. We have all of our lockup system here. The shift kit will come with a new spring that goes in here for lockup. And also, this is a true PWM pump. if you look here, how you can identify it is there is no orifice in this hole. Now, if it was a non-PWM, there'd be an orifice here. The shift kit would want you to drill the feed hole out through that orifice. Now, since this is a PWM, there's no modifications to the lockup system that you're going to be doing in this area here, except changing this spring out right here and putting a new boost valve and stuff in here through the shift kit will supply. Now, we do come in here. The shift kit is also going to tell you to drill out the relief hole coming through the pump right here. And I'd pull it back out. See if I might not even be able to show you. Yeah, without knocking the seal out. But there's a relief hole off the seal. It goes right through here. You can barely see it through there. Can you see that hole back there?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you drill that hole out, and then you drill the one out in here. This one right here to match it. That way it relieves all the pressure off your front seal. If you get any bushing wear or something like that and it's going to overload the seal, it can't do it anymore because you just made that hole so much bigger. So there you go, guys. That's that. Now we're going to get our coast clutch drum out of here. We're going to get our overdrive clutches out of here. And you can see here the old overdrive clutches are getting pretty wore out. Now we don't need it. We'll go with a better clutch here. We don't have to add any more clutches or anything like that. It's already got the thickest top or the thinnest top hat you got to even add another clutch. So, but once we do our modifications to our accumulator body and stuff, we're going to shorten this overdrive shift up a ton. So now you have this coast clutch right here. Now the shift kit will come with a different snap ring here. When you put it in, it won't fit. You're going to have to grind the tip of it off. Every one I do, you have to grind it to make it fit. And they want it that way. That way it fits tight in the groove and it can't pop out. Because these are bad about laying down in here and causing issues. So, it's your coast clutch. And you got this really tiny little sprag here. But you want to look here on this drum here for any wear because this sun gear is so small. You got to look on both sides because you got a coast side and a drive side. So now this is the what I call pop metal. You're going to end up seeing wear here with the overdrive clutch locks onto the drum. Now the earlier design was a steel drum. You didn't see this type of wear, but once they went into the 40100s and stuff, they upgraded to this style drum here, and it caused problems when they did it. So. We'll get our overdrive planetary and stuff out here. Now, if this was a gas, it would have an aluminum planet in it, but being that it's a diesel, it does not. It's going to have a steel planet in it all the way through. Get this out of here. Now, also, too, they made different versions of this washer right here. So, you'll... hang on, let me grab one really quick. Should give you an idea. I should have one over here. And you can see the difference in the two. Now when they did that, the planet's different. It don't lock on here no more. The other planet will have notches in here for these tabs to lock onto. Well, this one here has this notch and it locks onto there like that. Then you set it down in here. So, but here's your sprag race. They also changed this a couple times too, so different style of sprag. You always want to Scotch Brite this up, make sure there's no chattering or anything like that. Make it sure it looks really good.
Because Scotch Brite is red.
It sure is. Let me tell you guys, we use that stuff everywhere. Now a lot of times this snap ring right here is always off. Now your shift kit will come with a spiral snap ring. It's like a 3-way wrap. It's kind of difficult to get on, but it will never come off once you get it in there. So that is a really good upgrade too that Transgo did. You got your bonded piston, your kit will come with it. So these are always hard and shrunk. That's could be it'll take the overdrive clutch out, all that type of stuff. So. My table's starting to fill up, guys. It's amazing how many parts are in this thing when I get done. Now here we have our overdrive and our intermediate support. The intermediate clutches on this side, your overdrive clutches on this side. Here's one of your hollow bolts I was talking about. Actually, excuse me, I grabbed the wrong one. The smaller one. So it applies to here and through here. Now we do have, you can see here how this has been walking around shiny. That tells you that support's been moving in the bore. Okay, so we always come back here and we actually seal it right here and try to stop that when we put our new bolt and stuff in. So, and then we have this just like that. Now this is your same thing as a spring in a drum. It pushes your intermediate clutch off, holds it off until it needs it. Now you can start to see a lot of wear on these fingers right here, how it's starting to cut them off.
Oh, wow.
See that? You always want to check for that. That's a real big problem these have. So. Now here we have our support. We have another plastic washer. They've never changed this washer on any of them that I know of. Now they have changed it up here a bunch. They added a bearing here. They took a snout off here. This output shaft used to have a bushing in it on the earlier ones, and they had a snout sticking out here that went in there. Then they didn't have this bearing. But once they did away with that, now they use this bearing here to support the snout instead of the output shaft. So you always want to look here for any wearing. Here's your your third gear rings. They've never designed these any better. I wish they'd have done something better there because I think the factory cast iron ring is cheap. It does work, but you got to be careful on how high you jack the pressure up on these things when you're getting into heavy loads and stuff like that. Now they do make a support that you can buy where they come in here and machine this down right here, and you set a snap ring in the case. Because if you see here how this has been wearing, see these marks? You can see it here. These shouldn't be there. In other words, this thing's sitting there rubbing in the case like that down in here, and I'll show you where it's done it at. So you can just buy the updated one, put a new snap ring down in there, put their machined one in there, and now you're back to where you need to be. So we're going to get this intermediate clutch off here. You're starting to see some hot spots on the steels. It's starting to chatter. Now, if you notice this here has all thick steels, you might get one in here that has one thick and two thins, too thick, or however. I've talked to Ford on this. There's no instructions on which way to set these. I mean, if it comes in that way, you put it back the way it come in and pray to God somebody ain't been in here and jacked it up. So it's really hard to tell the clutch clearance here too. But so far this hasn't been jacked with. So we're really blessed in that part there. I don't have to keep my fingers crossed and do a lot of checking and trying to figure this thing out and make sure it's 100%. And then we have our engine brake band. These usually come in looking brand new because you very seldom see this tranny manually shifted. And then here we have our intermediate sprag. You notice this turns this way, locks to the right. Now we have a brand new one over there. You know, look here, looks really nice. There's no chattering. We can Scotch-Brite that up really nice. Now they do make on this washer right here, this is a plastic one. They do make a brass one too. Plastic one does hold up really nice. It is not necessary to put a brass one in there. Now you do want to look at your sprag, which we're going to be replacing it. But you want to come in here and look for any chattering. This thing looks really nice. Scotch-Brite this all up, put some bushings back in here. Looks really nice. Now, we are going to be adding one clutch to this drum right here. Now, it's already got 5 in here, but we can put 6 by changing this top hat to a different top hat, which actually we'll be using a forward top hat and a 350 Chevy snap ring back in this drum, and then we can actually get 6 clutches in there. So, and then we have this bearing right here. Now some of them did not have this bearing depending on what year, so you got to be really careful. You notice there's no washer here, and you get over here, there's no place for a washer. But some of these had a washer. Some of these had a 4-tab washer just like this that had notches in this drum. These tabs set in, and this washer set in this drum right here, like that. And when they did that, it was the early design that had the snout here, and it had the bushing down here in the input shaft or the output shaft. That's when you're going to start seeing that washer appear. So now this is our forward clutch here. Now we do have our forward sealing rings right here too. You know, they never upgraded these on anything that I've seen too. They're just a standard cast ring. Now, another thing I've always learned too, guys, in building trainings for years, always check your sealing ring in your bore. Take and stick that down in there like this. See how that fits really nice. The lock gap's closed. Always do that. Because if you stick one in here, I've done it, guys, especially C4 transmissions and stuff like that. They come with like 10 different sizes. You stick it on the drum, fits nice, but when you stick it on there, it falls to the bottom, and you put it in the car, next thing you know, it don't have no forward. So I've really got to where I've started checking it that way. That way you know you don't have to pull it back out, because that's one thing me and Trent don't like to do is pull them back out. So, you know, if we ever have to do anything, it's usually adjustments inside the vehicle, or basically in the valve body, or if I go driving and I don't like the way a gear works or something like that, then I can go in there and change it. So we never want to pull the unit out, period. Now here's our forward clutch. Now we do have a wave to soften the engagement. We don't ever take the wave out because you go back to customer complaints. A farmer puts in gear and it knocks his teeth out and his coffee spills on the dash and all that type of stuff. So we don't want that happening to the man. But we can take this forward plate right here and we can take, like this, guys, we can take this 3rd gear clutch. I'm going to build it back real quick and show you. Now this is just a quick example. Okay, we got our 5 clutches in there. Now we're going to, just saying, we're going to add another steel, just like we did. And I'm going to grab me another 3rd gear clutch, just saying this ain't the 3rd, but I'm going to use this as an example. I'm going to set it in there. I'm going to take this forward hat. I'm going to set it in there just like that. I'm going to go over here in my stockpile, and I'm going to grab me a 350 snap ring, and I'm going to set it down in here just like this. If you use any wider of a snap ring, it won't get in the groove because there's a lip right here. 350 snap ring is really thick. This snap ring is really thin, so I wouldn't be using it because it's not thick enough to give me my right clearances. But you can see here how this plate is almost up to the ledge right here. Now what I might do, since I don't like that, I'll go and grab me another 3rd gear clutch, and I'll get 2 of them, and I'll shave the backing off one side. Off the other side, I'll put them together. Now they're locked together. Put them back in there. Now my clearance is back up where I need it to be. So there's multiple ways to get your clearances, but you really want to get that extra clutch in there because just that one clutch makes a big difference, guys, when you're towing heavy weight. So write that down. That's a really simple upgrade. You always want to check these 2 right here too and make sure this is tight, because these things are bad about bowing when you get shift kits and stuff. It'll bow this plate when you put it in gear because that plate pumps up, applies the clutch, and then releases back. It's what we call a bevel plate and it acts like a spring. See if I can get that one. Come on. There we go. And that's what that is. It's bevel plate. It bows up when this piston comes up. It pushes. Don't want to ever forget your little wire that sets in the piston, and then that sets on there. And then when fluid pushes behind that piston, it lifts up on this hat, applies the clutch. So pretty interesting. Like I said, we can leave the 4 clutches in the Ford. We don't have to modify that. So we're going to get down in here, look at this. Now this should be a steel planet being a diesel. You'll see aluminum and gas vehicles and stuff like that. I'm going to look at both sides of these gears, make sure there ain't no wobbling, the pins ain't turning purple, anything like that. Make sure your spline ain't trying to strip here. That goes to your output shaft. Now there's no washer or anything here. This thing actually just runs metal to metal. There's no, you see it. The gears physically keep it centered, keeps it from touching, but still you want to Scotch-Brite that up just to make sure that if it ever does touch or anything. Then we're going to get our sun gear shell. Now, this trainer here does take some special tools to put back together. I have, once we stack all the drums, I got this big old thing that grabs all this and sets it all down in there in one whack. So, now the shell has changed in different ways right through here. When I was telling you they did away with that bearing in the forward drum, down through here. They changed it up here to keep it lifted up off there when they got rid of the washer. I mean, they did all kinds of crazy stuff. Same way here, you want to look at both sides of these gears because you got a drive side and a coast side on both sides. We had to replace all this stuff in the last one. We did because once I got it cleaned up, there was a lot of pitting. Like I said, he's already been carrying a ton of weight with this thing. So we already know that everything's going to have a hard footprint on it. And we got to look for that type of stuff when I get it cleaned up.
They travel and do motorcycle racing.
Is that what they do?
His sons, yep.
Okay. Now you can see the thrush washer here has a pretty good load on it. There's going to be another one down in here. We'll take the blunt of the load in first gear. So in other words, it gets the vehicle moving. All the weight or the force on this planet is on this one washer right here. And you can see the difference in the two. Now once it gets in the second gear, the load print gets put on that washer. So you can tell here when you're stopped at a light and you take off how much load you're putting on that washer when you're towing a trailer. Okay, and then it goes the same way. Same way here. Got 6 pinion planets. You want to look at all your gears, make sure they're not wobbling, any pitting on the back side. You'll see it more on the load side because you're moving all that weight. You're going to see more wear on one side of the gear than the other. I'm going to get down in here real quick and get this snap ring out of here. Got a snap ring. Now we're going to walk over here and pull the output shaft off. Bring it over here. Now the earlier designs had a thrust washer back here. The 40100s and the later E40Ds and stuff they did start putting a bearing back here instead of a thrust washer. Then you have your parking pawl, and then you have your speed sensor ring. So I tell you guys, these trannies are amazing. They blow me away still to the day on how these things work, push tons of weight down the road. And then you know the 6 speeds, 8 speeds and stuff like that, the gears are even smaller. They're more complex, they're more tighter. It just blows you away how they work and how they last. You know, it's just amazing. Now you can see a piece of metal got run over right here and it's stuck down in that gear right there. See it right there. So we definitely want to look at the planet because you know that planet's been running over that piece of metal in that gear. Dink, dink. So I don't see it. Oh, here's another piece right here. Mm-hmm. See? So we're definitely going to come in here, look at all these gears because that's where that gear's been running. Where did that piece of metal come from, guys? So like I said, I think a lot of it's coming out of the converter. These have real bad issues with converter failure. So, and the way the pump, the pieces are starting to look on the pump, I'm thinking so. Now this guy, I'm telling you, when he felt it, he turned it off. And he never started it again. I mean, I can tell just the way it looks and stuff. So I'm gonna lift this case up. I'm gonna take this race out of the back here. Let it drain for just a second.
I thought that was all that was in there.
There's still a little bit more in there.
I'm gonna go, hello, hello.
Yeah. Now we do have this brush washer right here too that sets on this forward planet. Let me find it again. It sets on, it sets on this hub right here, like that. Get turned. Then you have your bearing and your forward planet. I've seen it, missed it for a second. Now here we have our lower roller clutch here. It's starting to pull the plastic. I mean, the sprag's pretty much starting to wear. Get through here. You don't really see much wear through here on the clutches when your reverse clutch locks in or anything like that. Like you did the overdrive drum, this one here I was showing you, you don't see that. A lot of load on overdrive, you can see that right there when that indentation on that clutch. Now they do have a wave for reverse. Has plenty of clutches for a really strong reverse. It's just they have a delay. This tranny's really bad. It's got so much to do to go into reverse. You got your third gear clutch coming on, your low reverse clutch coming on, and it's such a big circuitry that there's a lot to fill up to make it happen. And the delay, to me, always occurs in the low reverse clutch area. So let me get these bolts here off really quick. You notice I've been babying. I don't want to get it dirty until I get my new cover on there. Thank you, Teresa.
Man.
She's out.
That's a lot of parts right there, guys. Together.
Okay. Now we have our lower inner race for our sprag. Where the heck did it go? Here it is. This was set in here like this. Like that. This will turn one way and not the other. You can notice here's your lube hole to lubricate your sprag. Now in the early versions, you notice this has a bearing right here. The early versions had a washer right here, and there was so much load on it, they were always taking this washer out. And what we were doing, we would come in here and drill all the way through the back here, and we would go as far as we could, and the drill just wouldn't drill no more because this is such a hardened race. And then we'd come in here and we'd measure where we needed to be, and we'd take a punch and we'd hit it with a punch and knock a hole in it right here, and then clean it up, run it all the way through, and now we pressurized the back side of this washer. And it made such a tremendous difference back in the day when we did all that type of stuff. But they did put a bearing here to eliminate the wear much more. So that turned out really nice for Ford. That was a really good upgrade. Now there's a hole right here. I just blew that reverse piston out. You always want to check these really close, guys. Anytime you put this piston in and you put your clutches in, air check it instantly, because this seal, sometimes they cut this groove so deep in the piston, this seal don't stick out far enough. If you notice right now, it barely has a seal. Same way here, look at that. There is no seal, and that is a lipped seal. That's not a square cut seal. That is physically a lipped seal. But let me tell you, you can't feel it. So even with the new seals, put it in there, put your clutches in there, air check it, and make sure it moves really easy. I've put them in before and have to go get another piston because the depth was cut too deep and could not get it to air check instantly with real light pressure, and that's where you're going to find it at. You hit it with a ton of air, boom, it's going to seal. But if you sit there and just barely, it will not pick the piston up. So that's something you want to check too. So excited. It's going to be a fun build for me to do. Enjoy doing these two. I'm glad Teresa got me some more beautiful tools. We're excited there too. We got a lot more show to come, guys. Just one after another. Got a lot of jobs in the parking lot. We're going to be videoing stuff, trying to upgrade everything. So y'all don't forget to subscribe, view, push all those buttons you want to push. We love doing it. So Teresa, and thank you again for taking over. Annie, shh. Y'all have a great day.
Knocking on the door.
Y'all have one.
Bye.